I looked at Zen, at the philosophy of Zen and how Zen relates to our life, and tried to combine that with being an entrepreneur. And there was a term called Zentrepreneur that was being used by some other fellows that came up with sort of a Zentrepreneur's guide, but it was very much related to business, and I wanted this to kind of be more global. And I didn't want it to be a political ideology, even though it has an ism. A Zentrepreneur is somebody that actually has a business. Let's say Aaron Stevens would be a perfect example of a Zentrepreneur. Aaron gets up every morning at 4 in the morning and meditates. I mean, I had trouble this morning getting up at 5. He gets up at 4 in the morning and meditates. He runs his business like his life. His whole family is involved in the business. So I think you should begin to think immediately, like today, what is my personal vision and what's my professional mission? And don't separate the two. Bring them together and do that, like immediately. That's what it's going to take. And this movement is literally going to take one person at a time. People make all sorts of excuses. Well, I've got to earn a living. You can earn a living. You can do what you love to do. You can be passionate about it. You can meld it. You can do all the things that are necessary with you and your responsibility as a person, as a human being. You can meld all those two into the business world and into your personal life. So I say start right now.
So if we could have a CEO like the Dalai Lama, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? So Buddhism is now attracting a lot of young people who are actually, in fact, buying Dalai Lama books, at the books written by the Dalai Lama, at a record pace. And a lot of them, I would say, particularly the Americans, are not what you would call full-fledged Buddhists. In other words, they don't shave their head, they're not in a monastery, and they haven't devoted their life to Buddhism as many of the monks have. But they are practicing Buddhists from the standpoint of perhaps the Eightfold Path, which is, right action, right livelihood. And if we just took that Eightfold Path and made that the 10 Commandments of business, that's all you'd need.
Traditionally, we've all grown up with the notion that businesses are all about the bottom line. And now we're beginning to find out that it's not about just the bottom line anymore. So we're moving into what I would call an era of enlightened capitalism, where the bottom line is not the only reason to be in business. There are other reasons. And I think that by looking at probably what's referred to today as the triple bottom line, which would be looking after your business, of course, your employees, your community, and the world. There are so many people that have come before me that have put that message of hope and peace out there. I think it's time now for the business world. The real big challenge is south of the border. I think that even though the administration has changed, there's a philosophy there. And the philosophy is based on a capitalist system that's gone amok, and it's wreaking havoc all over the world. And through that greed process, or that desire for power, war doesn't resolve anything. As we all know, it's a time-honored thing, and we talk about it all the time in our daily lives, and we're frustrated by it. But until that happens, until there's a fundamental shift or change in the way America views the rest of the world, we won't have peace. And that's the sad part. And there's a lack of trust. I mean, we've got the lowest level of trust since the 1930s. It's been proven by the Center for Public Integrity that the lowest level of respect of trust for government or companies.
Right.
So if you want to be,
it's a bad sign.
It's a bad sign. And so if you want to be like a Zen employee,
yes,
and you want to feel good about working for your company, then you're going to look at the top and say, well, how are they conducting themselves? Why would I want to be associated with them? So employees now are not looking for, as you say, the money or the bonus check. They're looking, well, what's my employer like to be working with? Is he ethical? Is he on purpose? Nobody has a definition of the American dream. It's just the relentless pursuit of the relentless pursuit of the relentless pursuit. A relentless pursuit of success, money, power. All leads to greed, unhappiness. Hopefully this is the beginning of a global movement where the business world and entrepreneurs like yourself and Zentrepreneurs are a part of that change. Yeah, I went through a transformation about 2 years ago. I was in a mastermind group. I used to facilitate mastermind groups in the corporate sector with CEOs of some very large companies in Vancouver. And I was sitting there, and eventually the discussion would sort of ramble on about mergers and acquisitions, and my merger is bigger than your acquisition, and I just did 25 million, well, I'm going to do 30 million. I just built this new house in West Van. What did you do? Well, I got a new Jag. What did you do? I got a Hummer. It's kind of like a comparing of things.
One-upmanship.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so I that was sort of the final straw for me. I sort of said, what am I really doing here? So I literally closed the door for 2 years on everything and everybody and wrote this book. And I, honest to God, used to follow motivational speakers everywhere. I know them all by name, I know them all personally, I've read their books and all of that. And I can tell you, I love this line, I read it in, if you want to get a great magazine called Ode Magazine, ODE Magazine, it's a wonderful magazine. And what is enlightenment? These magazines are propping up everywhere. You got to get a hold of these. But anyways, a great line. When you motivate, you serve yourself. When you inspire, you serve others. It is such a, just in that simple statement, and there are so many motivational speakers out there that are out there, they're hired for keynotes, they're hired for this, they're hired for that, and you know what? The minute people leave that, they may be inspired for 25 minutes, but after that they're in the bargaining drunk with their fellow conventioneers. I mean, that's about it. That's as far as it lasts. Well, I think there's a tremendous opportunity with young people because they're fresh out the gate and they've seen what's gone on in the past and they've seen the Enrons of this world and they've seen what's happened in Iraq and they've seen all this and they say, we don't want that anymore in our lives. We want to have families, we want to have kids, we want to have they watch Inconvenient Truth and it's a wake-up call. They see all of that and they say, we want a different life. Well, our responsibility as parents and adults is to give them that. We can't expect the television or other people to influence them to give them that. Television is the worst place they can go to find that. So they've got to find it from us. So we have to be those magnets for these young people. I think there is hope. There is hope for these young people because they want hope. They want something different. Youth feel tremendously disenfranchised. So that's what we have to do. We have to enfranchise now and bring them back in. And your group is doing that in an excellent way. And we have a commitment to do that too with the Center for Zentrepreneurism. And that's what we hope to do with Zen Mentoring.
Sometimes when you hear about a very idealistic notion such as this, you think, oh, well, you know, it all sounds lovely and nice, but are they actually going to be able to pull that off? And are there enough people out there who are looking for something like this? And my sense is that, in fact, there are. I think Western cultures are feeling the pressure.
I'm a practical person, I'm not a mystical sort of person, so it's eyes wide open in a practical sort of way. What he's really talking about is a very practical message as well, which is, you know, it's like a viral sort of thing. As you awaken, and whether you want to call it enlightenment or what have you, you start to recognize that there are people who are still asleep or semi-asleep, and you move that out.
Until the end of last year, I was a business development professional in the pharmaceutical industry. And for about 6 years in parallel to that, I've been doing some very intense spiritual development work on myself. And the more I had this inward focus, the less satisfied I became with my life in the corporate world. Until it really got to the point where I just could not do it anymore. I felt like I was leading a double life.
We're waking up to the fact that we have a lot more in us, we have a lot more to give, and it's more a matter of starting to take a look at that bigger picture.
Zentrepreneurism, yes, I do believe it will create something. It is the beginning of something. And it's bigger than me, it's bigger than you and I, and that's why we're going to create a community of Zentrepreneurs on our website and sort of develop this. So it is the beginning, and I do believe that it's carrying a message that's very powerful.